Next up is another hero of mine, Dr. Robert Frank, professor of management and economics at Cornell University. Another giant in his field. I first encountered Bob's work in graduate school when his book, Choosing the Right Pond, literally changed forever the way I thought about human behavior. He's forgotten more about economics than I'll ever know, and we're just grateful that he's joined us here today. Bob?
We're here to tell you about behavioral methods to help accelerate what we have to do, but I want to begin by saying that unless we adopt a really stiff CO2 tax, none of the behavioral methods that we're going to tell you about has any hope of averting the catastrophic effects we face from climate change. I suspect many people here won't have trouble with a statement like that. If you have friends who do, have them read David Wallace Wells' book. They'll probably feel comfortable after that with the idea. This is not the slide deck I was expected to see come up. I want to begin by saying that the biggest barrier to a stiff carbon tax is that the rich would have to pay much of it, even if we make it revenue neutral. The rich don't like to pay taxes. They will resist strenuously any attempt to increase their tax burden. I think our best hope for getting around that obstacle is to explain to them in whatever form we can that their resistance to being taxed more heavily is the mother of all cognitive errors. They think it will make it harder for them to buy what they want. What the rich want are the special extra things that are always in short supply. How do you get those things? You want a Ferrari, $330,000. There are only so many of them made each year. You want the fastest car. There are really only a few that would qualify for that. You have to outbid others like you who also want the Central Park apartment with a sweeping view. If they raise your taxes, they raise taxes on people like you. Your relative purchasing power is exactly the same as it was before, and so the same penthouse apartments with views of the park end up in the same hands as before. If you pay higher taxes and you're forced to drive the lowly Porsche on well-maintained roads, are you less happy than if you'd paid lower taxes and driven your Ferrari on roads ridden with foot-deep potholes? There's no cogent argument to that effect. So I think we could persuade the rich if we could get their ear for a moment. The very best trick for getting the wealthy or anyone else to listen to an argument they're not prepared to listen to is to not tell them what you want them to consider, but think carefully about the best question you could ask them to get them to rethink their position. A quick example that I found to be effective in my discussions of the Obamacare package, the most controversial item in it was the mandate. Nobody liked to be told by the government that you have to do something. I'm opposed to the mandate. You could, in 10 minutes, explain why if you didn't have a mandate, the three legs of the Obamacare program would collapse. You couldn't do it. That approach didn't seem to be successful. You couldn't get people to listen. What I found was that if you began by asking this particular question, that would launch a conversation that would get you where you needed to go. So I would ask opponents of the mandate, what do they believe would happen to home insurance companies if the government required them to sell fire insurance at affordable prices to people after their homes had already burned down? You don't have to think long about that question before you conclude on your own, that would be crazy. There was no way an insurance company could survive if you did that. And it's the exact same thing if we talk about requiring health insurance companies to insure people at reasonable rates if they have pre-existing conditions. It can't happen for the exact same reason, as everybody recognizes the answer to that question. Yeah, this is not the deck I last submitted. We can use the fact that we care about what one another thinks to get enormous leverage for and here's where behavioral effects come in with a real vengeance. This is Google's website showing solar roof panel installations. Each red dot is a solar installation. Notice that there's hardly a house in the diagram that has one that isn't contiguous to another house that also has one. The ones that don't have solar panels aren't next to a house that has one. So if we can get people, perhaps launching the effort through a stiff carbon tax, to put solar panels on their rooftops, once they see their neighbors see them having done that, the dominoes start falling. We can have enormous leverage in this. It's an enormously daunting task that we face, and if we don't use the full mix of behavioral and traditional remedies, we don't have any chance to succeed at it. But we could use all those remedies, and I think if we did use them, this can be done. Thank you very much.